Member for Brennan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it's a privilege to rise today to support this report by the Chief Minister on the update on the reducing crime progress for the Northern Territory. And I've been listening to the Leader of the Opposition talk about all of the things that she says that her previous government had done for Territorians in this space. And like most things that happen in this chamber, it's just astonishing. And I'll take you back a little bit of time because in the last Legislative Assembly, that was the time in which we had some awful, horrendous situations happen. And in no particular order, one of those things was the stabbing death of Declan Laverty. And there were thousands of people who came to Parliament House following that death to protest on the steps of Parliament House. People who had never attended a protest in their lives. They're not your usual activists who fly around the country to protest on about anything and everything. These were people who had never attended a protest before, but they came. And one of the reasons they came was because of the way that the Labor government treated everyday Territorians who just want to live their life, doing the right thing. And they say things to them like, the crime is just a spike, or it's just perception and gossip, and that they were doing everything they could to reduce crime in the Territory. And yet every single time we came into this Parliament, they weren't doing the things to address the crime in the Territory. In fact, if they did bring forward legislation, which at one stage they did, was to change the Bail Act so that weapons were quite prescriptive in the types of weapons that were included if it was a serious offence with a weapon. But that particular legislation didn't even include weapons, which is like the everyday choice that criminals use to attack people, being broken bottles, star pickets, and of course even a vehicle, which we know can kill people. They had a long list of all these unusual items, which I don't know if any of us have ever seen in real life, a cat of nine tails, like that's just something out of the movies. So many other things which just, this was legislation that they would bring forward which just never hit the mark and never shifted the dial. In fact, over 8 years of a Labor government, we had seen crime go from bad to worse, and we had record levels. We were literally living in a crime crisis, and it didn't matter where you went in the Northern Territory, that's what people were talking about, which is why when we took to the election our plan to reduce crime as the #1 priority, followed by rebuilding the economy and restoring our lifestyle, that is why Territorians overwhelmingly voted for the CLP, and why we do have 17 members sitting here today. Because we will not accept the fact that those crime rates were just out of control. I mean, Madam Speaker, Territory-wide, house break-ins over 8 years increased by 87%. Alcohol-fuelled related harm, alcohol assaults increased 38% over the last 8 years. And for the Labor government, who continued to come in at that time telling Territorians that that was just gossip and perception and not listening to them, not taking real action, that is exactly why we are here now. It is also why we're really proud to report on the progress of what we have done since coming into government, and it has been a very short 3 months. We're not even at 100 days yet of coming into government, and yet we basically pushed through very deliberately, because Territorians expected, a whole raft of new legislation on reducing crime, including the Police Administration Act, where wanding can now be done a lot more simpler by police. And that means that police can go into schools and they can go on buses and they can pretty much go wherever they need to go as police to be able to detect weapons that people are carrying around, which they shouldn't be carrying around. We're not talking about people with hunting, that's like little pocket knives or anything like that are out in the rural area fishing. We're talking about sometimes youths, adults, anyone who is carrying around big weapons.
Member for Brennan, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. We are going to break for lunch.